good with it in the hood with it? Welcome back to the collective clips where you already know we get it in. But before we get it in, let's hit that like and subscribe button. Bing. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directing the direction of the dope content that I'm kicking. And I highly appreciate all the support we're going up on this channel. And it's all because of you. And for that, I can say I'm very humbled and I'm very much so appreciative. So gracias. So I've been watching YouTube for a while and something came up on my feed the other day, man. Shout out to Chinaman, Damian Porter. If you guys haven't tapped into his channel, go tap in. He's got some good, authentic, real YA and prison stories, man. The brother's been there, right? Shout out to the Hoover criminal gang, man. That's facts. Did a lot of time with Hoovers, man. The homeboy Snoop from A-Tray Hoover, respects. So many different individuals. H-Dog from Hoover. D-Dog from Hoover, man. Devil Dog. He was a CX Ivir. That was my boy. He was with every type of shenanigan. That motherfucker right there used to do some crazy shit, right? But I actually was in the youth authority when the Hoover criminals became the Hoover criminals, right? In that institution. I remember that day distinctly. I was on Kennedy, the Compa Kennedy and Nellis down south. And there was a gang of Crips. There was a gang of 60s, 40s, Harlems, Compton, Crips, PJ Watts, Grapes. Everything you could think of, everything under the sun from LA was there. The representation of San Bernardino, Riverside, even Northern California, man. There was some Sacramento garden blocks there, just a little bit of everything. But there was a gang of Hoovers. There was about 7, 8 Hoovers on that compound, which was pretty deep for one faction. And I remember, man, they used to always be right there with the East Coast Crips, man. They didn't really get along, but they'd be having handball tournaments and shit. Anyways, I remember there was a big junta by the blacks, and the Crips specifically. Wasn't too many Bloods on the compa or Pyrus. And I remember the Southerners coming up to us and they were like, hey, these Africanos are having a fucking junta. Be on point, right? Now, that was a crazy thing. When it became racial, it became racial. And the North and the South did, on several occasions, talk amongst themselves to, come to an understanding that we need to lay the arms down with each other and handle our business as a people. And then we were right back at it. And I've told stories about that before, but they weren't tripping on us. The Crips were having a junta amongst themselves. And at the end of that junta, man, the Hoover gang, Hoover Crips became Hoover criminals, right? Now, I've been watching Damian Porter, who's a certified, verified Hoover, right? Allegedly. And I say allegedly not as disrespect, but for validation reasons, right? And I'll say this. He's been doing this series on milk, leche. And there's a lot of people. I've interviewed Milk on my channel, man. I've had discussions behind the scenes with them. And I could say that regardless of what people may think or believe when it comes to Milk, his story is his story. There's a lot of people that say, ain't no way a skinny little white man could be part of a Hoover gang or anything. But you got to understand, it's not about what you look like or your ethnicity, your race. None of that, man. It's about how you grew up and how you're embraced by those people. And that's it. That's the fact. I had homeboys that from my neighborhood that are black, homeboys that are Asian, homeboys that are they're on some other shit. I don't even know where the fuck they're from. Afghanistan or some shit. But the truth of the matter is, homies are homies, regardless of what they look like. I have some ugly motherfucking homies and the homies that would go out there and bring all the tortas back. I was one of them guys. Still am. But it's just like that. So I wanted to talk about white Crips, Bloods, Pyrus, and Crims in the California prison system, right? Now, I don't think Milk has ever did any time in prison. From what Damian Porter's saying, man, he was handling his business in the LA County Jail. But I think he did most of his time in Wayside, if I'm correct, man, because wasn't too many white dudes in the LA County Jail. That's facts. But overdoing time, I've ran into a lot of white Crips, not very many, and white Bloods, and never no white criminals, right? But I guess Milk is one. He's certified. Damian Porter stamped it and said that, everything that Milk says and does as far as him being a Hoover is the facts. The fact of the matter is, right? And I got to respect it. Now, a lot of people don't like Milk for whatever he says on YouTube. He's very controversial. He gets into it. And I think his sitting down with Adam definitely tarnished his career and what he had going on YouTube. But he's going to get back to it, I'm sure, right? Now, the stories that he's told about Milk fighting in county jails, are they impressive? No. And I'm going to tell you why. Everyone has to stand up for what you believe in. You will be accounted for. You will rise to the occasion, whether you want to or not. One thing about the brothers compared to the Mexicans is they take friendly fades. You know, they take hood fades. They do that. Facts. So when I see them saying that, you know, Milk had a squabble with all these different Crips and Bloods because of who he was, I don't think it was necessarily because he was a white criminal. I think it was more so because he was representing the hood. And, you know, you got to do what you got to do. Now, having done time with some of these white guys that were from black gangs, it's rough for them. Very rough. And it's rough not only from the opposition, but from their own people. Like, I'll tell you right now, man, I see this guy Snow Rock, nothing but respects. I know he's been there and done that. You could see by the grit and the grime on him. You could tell by his mentality, the way he carries himself. That brother right there, that white dude went through some shit. Another one is the homeboy, Whack Deuce, right? I've said Whack Deuce, a personal friend of mine. That's the homie, man. Blessings and many prayers to the homeboy Whack Deuce. Respects. That brother right there went to the 4-yard in High Desert. High Drama. Okay? Several other places. And being a white Crip is not safe or comfortable when you're incarcerated, especially in the California system. See, the lines are drawn in the sand, the racial divide. North, South, you know, the Mexicans have done their thing, the Paisas, the non-affiliates. You have the blacks, man, they're fragmented into several different groups. And you would think that, you know, a white dude growing up, you know, from a black gang would go in there and just be embraced by his people. But that's furthest from the truth. You know, in the California system, these guys have to rock harder than others. And it's the same thing. It's not the same when it comes to North and South because a homie's a homie, you know, but they feel like they have to go the extra mile. They feel they have to go extra, do extra. You know, I had black homies that felt like he had to get status or he had to be on frontline status. He placed himself there because he wanted to prove himself to the homies. When at the end of the day, I didn't see him for the color he was. I seen him for the heart he had. That's a fact, you know. But blacks are different. You know, they will take advantage of someone who they feel is not up to their standard or up to par with them. And that's a fact. See, within the Norteño and the Southern movements, we're not allowed to take advantage of our own people. We're not allowed to put hands on our own people or do anything, although it happens all the time. And I'm not here to tell you that the blacks were doing it and the Mexicans weren't, because that's a lie. Everybody has that there's a pecking order, okay? They have that predator mentality, not on some weird shit, but there's victims and there's, you know, there's prey, victims and prey, and then there's them vultures in there that'll pick your bones clean. It's what it is, man. It's a dog-eat-dog world, especially while you're incarcerated. If you show any weakness or any stoppage in your groove, then they're going to disturb it, like the system. Who got that, right? They're going to disturb your groove. But I remember, man, running into white Crips and white Bloods and recognizing the fact that their own people were misappropriating them, were doing bad things to them. And then there were those that were just on the next level. They were about their business, like Whack Deuce and Snow Rock and according to Damian Porter, Milk, right? And I don't doubt or discredit anyone's account of what was going on, you know, especially when it comes to Milk, man. If the homie said it, he said it. That's what it is. You know, I got to respect it. But I know people like Whack Deuce who've done interviews have said, you know, how bad he had it. And you got to understand, with the racial divide in the California prison system, you know, if you're a white Crip or Blood or Hoover or anything, you know, the skinheads, the Woods are going to feel some type of way about it. For two reasons. One, they felt disrespected because you're a white man associating or basically raising your hands against another white man. And the one thing the whites do not like is for any white man to go against the grain with their fellow people, right? And I don't think anyone does, you know. Another thing is they felt disrespected, and they're also upset that they lost a soldier to the other side. You know, I could see that. I could see that. So to be honest and truthful with you, no added preservatives. Here's some knowledge you can't get in college. White Crips and Bloods that show any type of slacking in their macking do not last on a California 4-yard. Okay, it just doesn't happen. You know, they have to really be with the business and really be into it because they're targeted for so many reasons. You know, the skinheads feel and the Woods feel that this guy cannot walk amongst them. So there's going to be drama. There's going to be tension. I'm going to tell you a little story. So I was doing time on a 3-yard, okay? And a white guy got there. He was from the Bay Area, okay? the way he talked, his mannerisms, he was with the Bay shenanigans, the Bay shit, right? Talked like a brother, sounded like a brother, man. If you were talking to him on the wire in the hole, you wouldn't even know he was white. Okay, got out, corn rolled up, braided up, doing his thing, sagging, just, a white man that grew up in that environment. Ain't nothing wrong with it. Ain't nothing wrong with it. People make such a big deal out of people acting a certain way. I know I'm a big proponent for no usage of the N-word, but that's my personal preference. I just don't like it, right? But, to each their own. And I understand you're a product of your environment, and where you grew up is where you grew up, man. You don't have no say, so blame that shit on your parents, right? Hey, if they ain't got the money, then you're in the hood like a motherfucker. But what makes any hood better than anyone else's hood? The hood is the hood, the ghetto is the ghetto. Facts, right? So I've seen a lot of white families grow up that way. And this guy touched down. He was from the Bay. He was representing the Bay. Now, he wasn't Kumi. He wasn't affiliated at that level, but he definitely was repping the Bay to the fullest. He was from San Mateo. It was what it was, right? And there was a gang of skinheads and woods from the Bay. Okay, from Vacaville, from Redwood City. There was, woods from Frisco, everywhere. And they did not like the fact that this white man got there with Bay Area tattoos all over him, representing black turf, right? So they targeted him. They targeted him on several occasions. And what had happened was this guy kept getting wrapped up. And I felt, just watching it from the outside looking in, I felt bad because, he would be kicking it with the brothers. He'd be doing spreads. And this guy was looted up. He had money. And you could tell when someone on the yard that has money, because people are all on the canteen line like, hey, bro, give me a soda. Give me an ice cream. You know what I mean? And so he'd get by like 10, 15 sodas. And all the brothers would be right there. And they're using the motherfucker. They're using this white dude, right? And they were getting all that. And he'd be busting spreads. But like there was certain black dudes that wouldn't fuck with him. They were like, nah, we're cool, man, right? We ain't fucking with this white dude. Because they already knew about the process of elimination, the shit that was coming up and how these whites were feeling. Every time they walked around on the yard, on the track, these white dudes were on him. They were mugging him. I mean, I know he felt the tension, and I was like, wow, your own people basically are utilizing you, and you can't, look at these dudes that get used and play the lummy dummy role like they don't know what's up. You know what's up. They're just going to keep feeding the lions, man, so they don't get eaten up. That's the truth, right? Because, them brothers, man, if they feel like this white dude is not up to their, like I said, their standards, they're going to throw him to the wolves or they're going to eat him themselves. And these white guys are waiting for your little lamb to stray away from the flock, brother, right? And then they can fucking put some metal in him. So this guy, there was a couple skins that were there. They approached some of the Crips, man, and they got at them. They were like, hey, this white dude, and the Crips were like, hey, that ain't our peoples. First of all, he's white. And second of all, he fucks with the Bay. So they went and got at the Kumi cats. And the Bay was like, look, man, we just using this dude. It is what it is. If you can catch him, catch him. They weren't going to jump for him, man. And so they got off on him. They didn't put no metal in him, but they stomped him out. They smashed him when he was walking on the track. The other black dude just walked away from him, just kept on walking, and they smashed his truth, right? And it wasn't because the brothers were scared. They just didn't give a fuck about him. That's a fact. Because if it was a righteous brother, man, and they would have did that, it would have kicked off the whole yard. And so they stomped him, smashed him. They moved him to another yard. It happened again. Moved him to another yard. It happened again. Eventually, shipped this dude out. He had it bad. He had it very bad, man. Like an Usher song, right? So everywhere he went and every little step he took, like Bobby Brown, they were fucking smashing him without the cocaine falling out of his pocket. Now, there was a white Crip that got there. And not to that place, it was a 3-yard, right? And he was with all types of the business. Everybody that wanted some of that, he had that. And he got to the point where he was smashing other Crips, black dudes, because they would look at him some type of way. And he eventually gained entrance into the car, the main car, the OGs there. They felt some type of way. Wait, let me flip this, man, before motherfuckers try to get the phone number. Someone's calling me, right? But he was doing his thing. And I can tell you this, I was proud of that situation. I was like, look at that white man standing on his own 2 feet. Now, he repped the brothers. He was with the Crips. And the fact is, man, that these guys probably have it the most roughest in the California prison system than anybody. Okay? I know coming from Norteño stock, having been a northerner, man, our numbers were always shaky. There was never a lot of us, right? And the way we did each other and politicked on each other, man, and to the certain level of politicking. I'm going to be doing a video tomorrow that's going to deal with all that, right? And tell you guys some different things. But it was crazy, right? For anyone that was of not of an understanding, wasn't laced up and seasoned, you know, it was a fucked up situation when it came to the Norteños, man, how we politicked on each other. And the Southerners were doing the same thing on their side, you know, fighting amongst their own and politicking. The blacks didn't politic as hard, right? But it seemed like every time a white blood or Hoover, and I didn't see no Hoovers, to be honest with you, ever, white Hoovers. I think Milk is the only white Hoover I've ever seen. I've seen Mexican Hoovers hit the yard. And I've seen some of the Southerners were tripping on them, but they worked all that out. I seen, and this is one thing. So anyways, back to the Norteño thing. So, you know, with our numbers, you would think like we were always on the short end of the stick. And we had it bad. And there was situations we were sent Southern California, Northerners there, and it was bad. The put your shirt on, the you can't do this on the yard, you can't do that, and you had to get off, right? And usually Norteños would go certain places and they knew already they weren't welcome, so they'd get off, first and foremost. You know, you get off until you're comfortable, till you get a place where you're comfortable. And I know that sounds like a PC move because it would be like, hey, you're there, establish your flag, right? But let's be honest and let's be real here. There's some places you can go and some places you just can't, right? And that's just how it is. You know, so for your own safety and security reasons, you have to make moves. You have to make moves and make power moves wearing shower shoes. It's what it is. Your antennas have to be up. Now, as far as Milk, I've never seen a white Hoover until I seen Milk, right? And I'm going to be honest, just like a lot of other people, I was very skeptical of Milk's stories and if he was a real righteous one. You know, for many years, there's been a lot of people wanting to test the credibility of Milk. Is he really with the business? We've seen his hands hitting the punching bag. They weren't nice, right? We've seen him intense. We've seen a lot of different things going on with Milk that makes people ponder and wonder and think, is he just utilizing this gang lifestyle and culture and being a culture vulture? But I'm here to tell you, man, Milk is verified. Okay, when you have someone... the stature of Chinaman, who's a very well-known individual. Let me tell you about Chinaman for a second. We'll get back to Leche. You know, Milk ain't gonna spoil. Maybe, maybe not. I was in YA and I heard about Chinaman. Okay, big dude, was in Paso Robles. You know, was that guy. Was for the Crips. He was that guy. And so, you know, seeing him now and never running into him, but seeing him now and kind of putting a face to the name. I understand that what he says and what he does, he has his own take on things, his own personal flavor. He's going to give it to you real. And I know Dubs did time with him in Paso when they were young, so he's known him for a lot of years. You know, this dude is just about that shit. Like I said, his name was circulating. And that's one thing in the youth authority when we were there, man. If you were known, you were known. Your name was out there, okay? Certain individuals. And his was definitely floating around. So for him to stamp Milk and say Milk is really one of his homies, Milk really was handling his business, I'm going to take that and run with it. I'm going to say, you know what? It is what it is. Dispense on Milk forever questioning your status or you within the gang life, right? But that doesn't mean that Milk is just the hardest motherfucker walking. Okay? Milk does spoil. Okay? It does get, the date does go out on it. You know, it doesn't have legs, brothers, right? But Milk has never done prison time. And to be totally honest with you, just my opinion on it, it would be a whole different, it would be different for him. Let's just say that. I don't want to belittle him and say that he wouldn't be able to handle his business, but depending on him going to a 4-yard or a 3-yard, I don't think he'd last too long. Just because of his mentalities and some of the things that he says and the way his characteristics, the way he acts. And I don't think it would even be the whites that would get off on him, to be honest with you. I think it would be the brothers that would do something bad to him. You know, he's made a lot of enemies along the line. So just taking it from here and now, being a YouTuber, content creator that's very controversial, you know, he said a lot of things about a lot of different hoods and a lot of different people that I'm sure they want to test his chin bone. You know, they want to connect his chin bone to his shoulder bone, you know, via the fist. That's what it is. You know, but has there been a lot of Crips and Bloods whites? Not a lot, but the ones that are with the shit are with the shit. You know, I told you guys about the white blood that shit all over himself. True stories. That was another guy. He had major hands though, but that was a guy that I felt they were taking advantage of. You know, and the brothers are like that. Let me explain something to you about the brothers. I'm not saying that they're bad people. Got nothing but love for the brothers, black and brown to the fullest, right? But if you show any type of weakness, they're gonna get you. You know, they got you where they're watching. Now they're gonna eat you. They're gonna get you, man. That's how it is. That was the mentality that I seen. The brothers had nothing but love, and they protect their people to the fullest. But if you fucked up or they felt you were weak, they was gonna do something strange for a piece of change to your ass, right? And that's just what it was. But as far as how the white Crips, white Bloods, and Crims function in prisons, they function with the blacks, man, with their peoples, and that's just it. But they will get smashed on. They will be tested. Okay, they will be tested. And like I said, it's the whites are already their enemy right from the gate, and they become a target. They become a target, and depending upon where they went, like I'll tell you right now, if Milk, a white Hoover, pulled up to Susanville when I was there, the skinheads would have did bad things to him. They'd have butchered him, right? That's just the truth. That was the White House. The woods were deep, brother. The skinheads were deeper. It was crazy, man. There was a lot of racial hatred and a lot of racial divide there, just the way it was at that particular time, 2006, 7, shit like that. It was crazy. But, for people that think just because Milk's white or white Crips and Bloods, they can't go hang in prisons, you see the pictures in the background, man. If you're with the shit, you get love. And if you're not, you don't. And that goes for everybody. You're going to have to go to prison. You're going to have to be a man. It's man time now. And it's upsetting to some people, that some people have it better than others. But hey, man, that's the game. You have to play whatever you're dealt, the cards you're dealt in that fucking game. Coming from Norteño stock, like I said, we were always considered the underdog. Every time we hit a yard, but we handled our business, right? We always knew we were outnumbered by the enemy. We always knew the opposition had greater numbers and were vicious. But we had to do what we did, right? But with the whites that claim black gangs, it's a whole different level, man. Because a lot of the brothers will say, fuck that. We ain't going to lose what we got on this yard over this dude. And let's be honest with you. There are a lot of brothers that will be like, he's just a white boy anyways, right? I don't like to say that because I say white man, but I'm just saying that's what it was. And that's how it is. Anyways, with that being said, man, I've been watching the videos. Make sure you guys tap into Chinaman's content. He's been doing this little series on Milk. I respect it. I respect what Milk's got going on, and I guess he verified him, right? So those that sleep on Milk, he is really a Hoover. But I'll tell you right now, man, he might have been squabbling in county, doing what he did. He go to prison, they gonna fuck him. This is the gun. Bang, bang.